Once upon a time, in the heart of the Amazon rainforest, nestled between giant ceiba trees and shimmering rivers, there was a little village where everyone knew everyone else. Its name and life flowed at the rhythm of the rainforest, just like the water that tumbled over the nearby Iguazu Falls. In this village lived a girl named Amina, whose name meant storyteller in her native language. Just like her name, Amina loved to make up stories about jaguars that walked on rainbows, monkeys that gossiped in treetop parlors, and toucans whose feathers sparkled like gemstones. She was known throughout the village as the best spinner of tales, which made her feel very important indeed. But one day while playing by the river, she found something even more wondrous than a talking tree frog. It was a giant quill that shimmered with all the colors of the rainforest, from the emerald green of the canopy above to the sapphire blue of the river below. And when Amina picked it up, she heard a voice inside the quill as clear as a babbling brook. "Do you want to hear stories of the greatest adventures?" it asked. And before Amina could answer, the sky rumbled with thunder and the quill glowed brightly. Startled but curious, Amina looked up to see dark clouds swirling overhead. Then she watched in amazement as each raindrop that fell from the sky turned into a letter of the alphabet. As the rain intensified, the letters swirled around her, forming words, then sentences, then entire stories of daring escapes, faraway lands, and magical creatures. The words danced and twirled like the raindrops, and Amina stood there mesmerized, feeling like she had stepped into one of her own stories. But then came a loud clap of thunder, and the words were suddenly blown away, leaving Amina in a pool of sparkling water. And that's when she noticed something extraordinary. Every clap of thunder produced a capital letter, bold and bright, and with each flash of lightning, the words shimmered into view. Suddenly, Amina understood. This wasn't just a quill, it was a storyteller's magic wand, a way to capture the whispers of the wind and the secrets of the sky. With a heart full of wonder and a mind brimming with ideas, Amina started writing stories of her own. She wrote about the brave macaws that guarded the forest, the playful otters that slid down waterfalls, and the wise old turtles who shared their knowledge with anyone who would listen. And with every story she wrote, the quill glowed brighter, filling the sky with colorful words and the thunder adding dramatic flair, just like an orchestra playing the soundtrack to her tales. The villagers gathered around, their faces lit up by the glowing words, listening with rapt attention as the rain-kissed breeze carried Amina's stories into their hearts. For Amina, sharing these stories was like music to her soul. Seeing the joy on the villagers' faces as they listened to tales of adventure and intrigue filled her with a happiness that tasted like sweet rainforest berries. However, one day a grumpy cloud rumbled overhead, not with the gentle rumble of a storyteller, but with the angry roar of a beast awakened. And from its depths emerged a creature that sent shivers down Amina's spine, a storm spirit with eyes like flashing lightning and hair like tangled vines. It snatched the quill from her hand, cackled with glee, and raced across the sky, leaving a trail of dark clouds in its wake. As it flew, the quill wrote out its own story, one of chaos and destruction, and the words formed a torrent that flooded the village streets. Houses turned into islands surrounded by swirling waters, trees bowed under the weight of heavy skies, and the people huddled together, afraid and soaked to the bone. The storm raged for what felt like hours, and Amina watched in horror as the quill's dark words caused so much damage. Finally, the storm spirit dropped to the ground, exhausted from its destructive spree. But even as it rested, the quill continued writing, creating whirlpools in the river and toppling trees onto rooftops. It was then that Amina remembered the words of her grandmother, a wise woman who knew the secrets of the rainforest like the back of her hand. "When the storm is at its fiercest," her grandmother had told her once, "that's when the storyteller must be at their bravest." Taking a deep breath, Amina knew exactly what she had to do. First, she needed a new writing instrument. Her grandmother had taught her that the feathers of certain birds could hold the sunlight within them, turning each stroke into a ray of hope. Carefully selecting a feather from a brightly colored bird she had seen earlier, Amina dipped it into a pool of sunlight that peeked through a break in the clouds. Then she stepped into the raging torrent, her woven raincoat billowing behind her like a giant flower, and her rubber boots splashing in the floodwater. Raising her sun-dipped feather high, Amina began to write. She wrote about a brave girl who ventured into the storm to rescue her friends and family. She wrote about a wise old turtle who helped her on her journey, and magical butterflies that guided her with their iridescent wings. And as she wrote, the words shimmered with the power of the sun, pushing back the darkness and drying the floodwaters. With each stroke of her feather, the sky cleared a bit more, revealing glimpses of the smiling sun. The thunder rumbled in appreciation, knowing that the storm was finally ending. The storm spirit, weakened by the light, tried to flee, but it was too late. The words of Amina's story trapped it, swirling around it like vines until it was completely immobilized. And then something magical happened. The captured storm spirit, bathed in the soft glow of the setting sun, started to calm down. Its angry eyes softened, and its wild hair seemed to settle, becoming less tangled and more tame. It was as if the very essence of the storm was being soothed by the warmth of the sun and the power of Amina's story. As the last rays of sunlight faded from the sky, the storm spirit, now a gentle breeze, thanked Amina for understanding its wild nature and for teaching it the beauty of peaceful coexistence. With a final wave of its hand, it restored the damaged houses, straightened the fallen trees, and left behind a sky filled with stars. The villagers emerged from their homes, blinking in the sudden brightness and gasping at the sight of their restored village. Cheers erupted, echoing through the quiet rainforest. They gathered around Amina, praising her bravery and thanking her for saving their homes and their lives. And then something even more wonderful happened. The quill, which had been lying forgotten in the mud, started to glow softly, bathing Amina's face in a warm light. In that moment, she knew that her adventure had only just begun. With the magic quill in her hands and the support of her village behind her, she was ready to write even more stories, each one filled with the wonders of the rainforest and the bravery of those who lived there. From that day forward, Amina continued to write stories, not just with the quill, but with her life. She became the chief of her village, leading with wisdom and fairness. She protected the rainforest, understanding its delicate balance and the importance of preserving its beauty. And whenever a storm threatened the village, she would stand tall, ready to face it, knowing that she had the strength and the stories to guide her way. And so, the legend of Amina, the storyteller who tamed the storm, echoed through the centuries, carried on the wings of the wind, and the whispers of the leaves reminding the people of the rainforest, and all who listened, that even the wildest storms can be calmed by a story well told. This enchanting tale is brought to you by our studio. We create fun and educational content for children, fostering a love for learning and a passion for exploration. Join us on our journey to ignite young minds and inspire a lifelong love of knowledge. Together, we can make a difference. Thank you for watching. Catch you next time.